Thank you folks for clicking on the video. If you'd like to be informed when new videos go live, please hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that bell notification icon. Please feel free to like, comment, and share the video with family and friends, as it really does help the channel grow in the current YouTube algorithm structure.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Swamp Dog Games. Today we're going to be looking at the module Kavlov's Sanctuary from the Dungeon Key. Now this is a OSR, specifically Morkborg adventure module with a horror theme. Not exactly sandbox, but more of a framework module that is currently in a Kickstarter for a OSE or Old School Essentials version. So if you go down to the pinned comment / the links in the description down below, you can get Kickstarter for the OSE version of this. The OSE also comes with an extremely limited edition cover option that's I highly recommend, if you're going to be getting the print version, getting that limited edition cover. But the module is, for the most part, about 80% the same between this and the OSE version. Just full disclaimer, this booklet was received by me for free. This is a offset printing version, similar to, or that is the one that's available through Exalted Funeral. Most of these that you purchase will be print on demand through Drive-Thru RPG. This will be about the same quality as the limited run printing of the Kickstarter, not indicative of the print-on-demand version through Drive-Thru RPG as terms of the physical quality. I have not been paid for this review, but you will probably see in the corner a mention, something about include paid advertising. I put that there because I do have affiliate links to Drive-Thru RPG down below where you can purchase this, and if you purchase this through those links, I do get a small commission off of that, hence why I put the disclaimer there, just so that YouTube can't try coming after me later. Otherwise, all opinions are my own, and there will be, again, some differences between this and the Kickstarter. I will reference them to the best of my knowledge. I did have an interview with both the Dungeon Keys, Jean-Luc, and the translator for OSE, Hexed Press's Tom, in the corner up there, where you can get a little bit more in-depth about the differences between the two. But for now, let's get into the review. The book itself is a very nice, good quality binding book. It is glue bound. It will not lay flat, the booklet, on a table, but its glue binding is pretty good. This is going to last you a while. It's not going to be a flimsy thing. The book cover, I thought this was a misprinting at first, because when I first looked at this, I loaded on my e-reader, which washed out a lot of the color. This module's cover is designed to look like an old school adventure module, so this here would be where the price sticker, the glue would have been interacting with the cover, / where it wouldn't have been exposed to as much sun if this was sitting on a shelf for 20 years. Look with the art style of this book. It does contain 2 pieces of AI art. He did want to disclose that, both the front and the back, but the Old School Essentials version that is on Kickstarter is all artist-drawn art, and this does have artist-drawn art in the interior of the booklet. Very nice old-style pencil-style drawing in here. Definitely pops out so you can see it. One of my favorites is definitely the hills have eyes page in here, and all of this is actually drawn by an artist. And then you also get the maps that were, of course, done through software, but again, they had to lay them out. This is a horror-themed adventure module. It does have the warning at the front, content warning, that this does have death, torture, cannibalism, pesticide. Wait. Okay, not pesticides, sorry. My dyslexia probably saved me from getting demonetized by YouTube, unfortunately. But a lot of things that make this definitely a hard R fantasy setting. So, unlike my Abomination Vaults, where I kind of included just because Paizo does CYA to cover their ass, but you could really give it to like a 13 or 14-year-old. This you would not give to anyone under the age of 18, under no circumstances. This adventure module. It is very horror themed, keeping in line with sort of Morkborg's sort of like punk horror theme, I guess. I'm not well versed with how Morkborg works, both either as a rule set or the game settings that typically tries to go with. But this definitely is on the let's figure out how to shock the crap out of you horror in here that will definitely get you going in this module. With this module, it is set up for the Morkborg system. Again, the new one on Kickstarter will be for Old School Essentials. This book is about 90% compatible as far as like the story and classes go. Some of the rules will have to be changed drastically. I believe Todd had a post on his site that some of the class features will have to be removed because they couldn't figure out how to get them to work exactly with Old School Essentials. So do bear in mind that this will have some changes in it. However, if you want to see firsthand what the classes and the module adventures look like, you can go to their site. They do have a free version of the Old School Essentials class for the Fleshweaver, as well as the Cannibal's Vault. In here, it provides a little guide about what the Sanctuary is, why it exists, why players would likely go there. A little bit of setting information. This bills itself as a sandbox. It's really more of a framework, in my opinion. A sandbox adventure would be, hey, here's the town, here's the NPCs, here's how much gold they have, here's their daily routine, here's their personality, here's this, that, and the next thing. And then it provides you that and tells the GM, go forth and have fun. This is a setting, and it provides you some basics to play in that setting, but it leaves a lot up to the game master to fit it into their situation. So it's going to be easier to integrate this into a pre-existing adventure. You don't have to play this module straight. In fact, I would kind of say you're probably better off not running a campaign directly through this. This is better like to have an anthology adventure setting. Personally, like every Halloween, have adventure modules here, though that is influenced by the Morkborg version of this. Depending upon how the flow of the OSE version goes, that might change. But you will need to provide a lot of the details for this setting. It does come with the variety of classes that are available for players to choose from. As they did highlight during their live stream, it's not assumed really that the player group needs to play all of these classes for the adventure. In fact, they did have a slight hilarious issue with one of theirs with the degenerate cannibal, with why is it their cannibal is the good cannibal and the NPCs in the cannibal's cave are the bad cannibal. And they do raise some interesting philosophical debate insofar as their adventure module went. So you don't have to play all of these for the adventure. These are provided as sort of a baseline. You will have a couple additional classes in the OSE version, which they are creating a backporting module, so you won't have the story that's already been written for Morkborg version of Kavlov's Sanctuary, but you'll have all the updates of classes, all the updates to rumor titles, all the updates to adventuring sections will be backported if you already have the Morkborg version. So you're not going to miss out if you're a Morkborg player and you don't get the Kickstarter. They are backporting a lot of that details. this is where you start to see really where things like just go like off the rails insofar as the type of humor that they use. Two of the ones I'll point out with like the skin bastard in here, which is my least favorite, and was like, yeah, let's create as shocking a horror version of fairies as we can that remind me of who's that family from the Game of Thrones with their standard being the skin man type thing, those crazy bastards, which was like, this is kind of unnecessary to, in my opinion, the degenerate cannibal, which was the most hilarious just because you can end up summoning a tapeworm familiar as the cannibal. Some of these, my issues with them come mostly from not understanding Morkborg. I don't see how a lot of these translate that easily into an Old School Essentials rule set. Even Todd had said that some of the special abilities in here don't really translate well, that they couldn't do, so they had to be dropped for the OSE version, and they'll have to be replacing them with something else. The balance is a little bit funky to me, but again, that is because of my lack of familiarity with Morkborg. I understand Morkborg is more of a flat progression system. You do have some boons that you get so that your player can see that their character is leveling up in their adventures, but it's usually reserved for like one shot, convention play adventures is what the system is probably its strong suit is, versus Old School Essentials, which takes the traditional D&D power fantasy and takes you from level 1 to level 15-ish, depending upon the class in OSE. And trying to figure out how these would balance, thankfully not my responsibility. But have a hard time seeing how these balance insofar as a Morkborg setting goes, compared to like your classical thief, wizard, fighter, rogue, or ranger that would be more suitable for a lot of these adventures personally, rather than some of this crazy stuff. Like the tapeworm familiar is hilarious, but isn't really that effective. But again, that's from someone that plays Old School Essentials and Castles and Crusades. The math for those, this doesn't quite make sense to me, so take that as you will. You can download, however, a free OSE class as well as a free OSE adventure module from here through their Kickstarter, so you can get a feel for the module before you back it. Again, which I highly do recommend if you do get the full version with the custom artwork. The lore of the setting is a little bare bones, but it's, again, a framework. This is why the sanctuary exists. This is why the Haunted Hills exist. It doesn't have to go into, because in 1834, some trade route dispute led to the 1957 War of the Roses, which then come into the year 2000. Then the AI overlords came through and wiped the planet clean. Garbage, you don't need any of that. It doesn't go into that. It just keeps it simple. This is why the sanctuary exists. This is why the players are probably here. This is why you're going to have fun in this adventure module. This adventure module bills itself as a sort of keep on the borderlands adventure, which, when you look at this, that is an entirely accurate statement. You do have the history of why this sanctuary exists. You sort of have a more abstract map of it, as well as a more abstract look at who inhabits the sanctuary. But you have that acting as your central point of access, with rumors helping drive adventures in the surrounding area. But you then have your central monastery that acts as your base, the Dreaded Hills, which acts as sort of your caves of chaos, and then you have in here the bog, which acts as sort of another adventuring ground for your players to get boons and level up in here, again, keeping with that traditional Morkborg style, roughly flat, with like only the hair's bit of incline power progression. It does have an opportunity in here for a bog witch, that you can get artifacts that will help level up your play. None of this can be purchased via gold. You have to go into the caves to get the items that the Bog Witch requires to actually be able to sell you any of these boons. So it does encourage that you go into the caves to fetch the items, to get the artifacts that allow you to go deeper into the caves and rinse and repeat that classical caves on the borderland, or keep on the borderlands style adventure. Even though this is aimed more at a horror theme, the Bog Witch wears, my thought goes to, if you remember Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, the Twinrova sister that's in the Deku Swamp, running the camera shop. To me, that's what I imagine the Bog Witch's shop looking like there, going to the place to get all of your artifacts for your adventuring needs in here. But it does have also a wild monster encounter list so that you can go adventuring in the local wilderness and the local bog, and have constant interaction with the flora and fauna through that. Your dreaded hills, you have the big campaign map, which is, again, if you've ever seen Keep on the Borderlands, it's exactly out of that module. It's designed to go from the ground level, and then as the goes up, it kind of increases in difficulty. I don't really see how that works in Morkborg. It is kind of difficult, more difficult as you go up. In Old School Essentials, you really need to differentiate like the difficulty curve as you go up. In my opinion, looking at these adventuring modules, you play this, and your player, if the GM is favorable, can walk in pretty much anywhere and just adventure in it. It's all up to the game master whether or not he is going to like deal with the power curve increases through here, or just play it somewhat flat across the difficulty level across this playing field. That's an option that I guess you have in Morkborg because of its progression, which you need in OSE, that more traditional, like if your players enter the top, they'll get murdered, one-shotted by the dragon, versus if they walk in the bottom, they have a chance against the spider demon type thing, in my opinion. But this is your main map as you go through your adventures. Let me go to the Cannibal's Den. This is the free version. Each section has the local map that you'll need to traverse in that area, so you don't always have to keep flipping back and forth, which is nice. It does have some accentuated pen art or pencil art that helps accentuate what you're dealing with in here. This is the module that they did live play in the adventure. It is this one themed at your very classical sword and sorcery. Let's go in and save the peoples from the evil cannibal cult that's in here. And if you decide to take like the degenerate cannibal, then you can have the moral question why their cannibal is good, or why your cannibal is good and theirs are evil debate as well. But again, it's all very horror themed in here, where you have the cannibal options, for instance, where you could again, theoretically, as being part of a framework, you don't have to go in here and be like, we are going to kill the cannibals and save the princess. If you wanted to, you could do. There's nothing stopping you in this adventure from being like, nope, we're going to participate in the cannibal sacrifice, and just the adventure is now figuring out how to obtain all of the specific ritual items necessary to actually conduct the ceremony proper. One of the advantages and one of the curses with this type of framework adventure system, but that's going to be pretty much what a lot of these modules are. To me, I think where this is going to be its strongest is in one-shot adventures. Rather than a campaign from beginning to end, have Kavlov's Sanctuary a reoccurring place, or bring it in for your Halloween play or for your convention play. With the OSE version, that might be better suited to long-form campaign play, just because of my familiarity with the OSE long-form campaign play math necessary to actually facilitate and make that fun. Again, if you have more experience with Morkborg and say that this can be a full-on beginning-to-end campaign and not just one-shot adventures, please let us know in the comments below to correct me on that. I know it's not that you can't do it, I should clarify as I'm thinking through it. It's just that from someone who's used to that power curve advancement, it's easier to see that investment between player and character as they level up, because you're constantly getting all those power-ups versus this, where you can play from scenario to scenario to scenario to scenario. You could do a full adventure in here, no problem. This isn't only a one-shot module and that's it. It's just that from adventure to adventure to adventure, I just am not fully sure where there's enough power buy-in with the players to be able to have a 1 year straight session in Kavlov's Sanctuary where you're just playing these characters against these adventure modules. That's in my opinion. Again, I come from old school D&D 3.5. The longest campaign I ran was for 2.5 years doing the Rise of the Rune Lords campaign with a ton of side quests thrown in. This ASA, or in that one we had, of course, then the Craft Orphan check mess, which is a story I need to write down Puffin Forest style, but that's neither here nor there. That's just the type of adventure I am, with very clear power play as you go from fighting the goblins to now fighting the rune lords. How you see that very clear power progression here, to me, feels like it's much more suited to one-shot adventures. All right, and now on to the official rating system for this game. So I'm dropping that old point module system. I loved you a lot, old point modules. I loved being able to put on my glowing D20 on here, but I've noticed that as a lot of these modules, as I get more into this stuff, this type of rating system really does a disfavor to modules. I'll be redoing, for instance, later another module that I did on behalf of someone else, their rule set, the Dames, because retroactively I'm going to be dropping this D20 system and going towards the system that I'll be using at the end of this video. As a module goes, this is one of those, again, there's generic, that's so generic that it's accessible to everyone, but no one ever hears about it because it's just getting lost in the sauce because there's nothing to grab you, versus the other end, which is all of your, this is a so unique product that it's going to not be accessible to a lot of players because it's filling in a very specific niche that only that specific niche group of players will play. Scenario, this is up for every single publisher to decide where on this sliding scale they want to be. This is one of those modules, again, that's definitely on this is extremely unique, both from terms of its story that it's going for, the level of horror that it goes in here for. This is going to scare away a lot of people that might not like big horror connection things. Like if you don't like watching the Saw movies, which admittedly I don't like watching the Saw movies either. You don't like Hellraiser. I do like the first two Hellraisers, actually. You don't like your 80s horror films, then this is not going to be a module that I think you're going to enjoy that much, or you'd have to strip so much out of it to be enjoyable to you. This is for your, we like horror, we don't care what that horror is, just give us the horror adventure, and it will give you what you want. It will give you horror-themed adventuring in Kavlov's Sanctuary as you worry about are your actions helping feed the local demon lord. It's a good module. I'm glad I got a chance to read it. There'll be a couple things in here that I will probably be running as one-shots for my own campaign. It's just the warning of, again, if you just like D&D epic adventures where you go to the local game store and you play the epic once a month and that's it, and this might not be the module for you. But if you like, again, that very hard 80s horror style adventure module, hey, I definitely recommend giving this a shot. You will definitely not be disappointed as far as this goes. The fact that this is more of a framework rather than a sandbox. So, as I said earlier, sandbox is here's the adventure, or here's the sandbox, here's all the toys in the sandbox, go have fun, which is a lot of fun. This is more of a framework or blueprint, where it's like, hey, here's the building materials, here's the blueprints, build the sandbox, then go play in it. And that has a lot more options when you do it this way. If nothing else, the fact that this, by having fewer hard coded elements to the story, means it's much easier to integrate this into your own adventure that you might already have going in a campaign without having to overhaul tons of stuff in here. Because instead of going, oh, I'm playing a northern Nordic religious area versus this, which might be a more Southern Wales religious area, I'm spitballing names out here, and having to overhaul how some of the religion works. Hey, it's just, hey, here's the local priest, here's the demon they worship, and that's it. And then you just plug it into your adventure module. You get to add a lot on top of here. It's like this is your meat, and then you get to add the seasoning rather than it all coming as a prepackaged deal. So you get to flavor it to your heart's content. I like that analogy. I should use more food analogies when doing this, but now the consequence is I'm hungry. I'm not so much of a fan of the class system in here. Again, that's because of my lack of I think is fully because of my lack of understanding of Morkborg and not seeing how this translates that well into OSE. And just some of this was like, I'm not a fan of it, like the skin bastard. I'm like, this is pushing it to what I find acceptable. Versus like the degenerate cannibal, which is like, let's go so horror themed that we'll have a tapeworm coming out of the guy to go fight in battle. That, in my opinion, is sort of like the least usable part of this book. Again, if you have experience with Morkborg and you've read the free online class or have played this module before and could explain a little bit more greater detail how these are balanced and why they are better than maybe I'm giving them credit for, please mention that in the comments down below. That's just my opinion. In my opinion, stick to the adventuring modules with your standard classes, and they would be great as drop-in adventures, even without the sanctuary. Though I do like the sanctuary idea and the bog witch. Again, I think I'm going to pull up some pictures of Twinrova from Majora's Mask now and implement her as a bog witch in sort of one of my campaigns now as a recurring character, courtesy of this module. So thank you guys for giving me that idea, if nothing else. But yeah, if you want it, it is print on demand. You can also get it in the watermark PDF version through DriveThruRPG. Link in the comments down below. But there is the Kickstarter, which is going on live right now. If you like this module, I definitely recommend giving it a peek. The cover art for the new one is if you saw Hole in the Oak, which is published by the 4 Old School Essentials, and you look at the Morkborg cover, mash them together, it does look exactly like what you would expect a cover to be of a Morkborg style gamer making an OSE adventure. So that's going to be the limited print run. I did order mine, and I will definitely be adding that one to my collection, just because I do like the adventures in here, the possibilities of that. Even if I'm not a fan of the classes, the adventures, I ordered mine from the Kickstarter and cannot wait for that to come out. Other than that, my official rating for this book shall be, under the new system, which if you've ever seen Strife Hayes, who does MMORPG reviews, I'm going to be stealing this from him. My review for Kavlov Sanctuary is an official tapeworm familiar out of 20. I hope to see you all next time. I hope that you all enjoyed Kavlov Sanctuary, the quick rundown. I hope that you give it a chance, and I hope to get to see you in the Kickstarter soon. Other than that, bye y'all, and see you next time.
This is ridiculous.